Thank you for staying with us. It's time now for the news review. We have a stack of papers here, and we're joined by a fine gentleman, a good friend of mine, who joins us this morning for tea. Kojo Poku, energy analyst. Kojo, a very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Ben. How are you?
I'm very well, very well, very well, in fact. It's been a long time. Good to have you joining us for tea this morning.
Yes. How do you like your tea?
And this is a tea of information, a tea filled with information and the cream of everything else that our viewers want. Thank you so much. Let's start, since you're a big, you're a stalwart in the MPP. Let's talk about the National Delegates Conference and what happened over the weekend. So just to walk you through, I know you followed everything, but we had the different parties come along and share their goodwill messages. You saw what Dr. Peter Otokuno came and did with his ball of kenke and say he paid for it with a Ghana card. Maybe casting aspersions, but talking about the dire economic times and, the vice president's allusion to the fact that he would choose the Ghana card over 1,000 interchanges. Then there were other messages, for example, from I think it was the PMC or the NDP, saying that let's stick to it when it comes to free SHS. Let's not do anything as we go for an IMF program. Let's not do anything that will shake the system. There was Ken Oforiatta saying, you want me to resign? Resigning is like a father abandoning his children. We had Asabi tell us that there was vote buying and everything else. And of course, in the main event, we saw a new national chairman, Stephen Ayesu in team, and then the general secretaryship, John Bwedu, lost. Your quick reflection on, the weekend's conference.
Well, good morning and good morning to your viewers. Nice to have you and nice for you to have me. I think the weekend went well. I think the Congress, the only slightest thing that everybody was not happy with is the late start of the Congress itself. But aside that, it went
about 6 hours.
And everybody was very jubilant. Everybody had high expectations.
Right.
Well, and the voting started around probably 6. The Congress itself, around 3 o'clock was when the president arrived. So in that sense, yes, that was the only downside of the Congress. But the jubilation, the enthusiasm, everybody was the place was ecstatic. And the most important thing that people should realize is that the way this thing started in February, we didn't think it would end in such a big jubilation and everybody will be so excited and there will be unity at the end of it. Yes, there's a new chairman, there's a new general secretary. At the end of the day, it's the party that has won and the unity was important. So I think the goodwill message from other parties was sometimes funny and welcoming, but the most important thing above all is that the party has shown once again that the grassroots determines who leads the party that everybody took out of this Congress. Right.
Well, and for you, the crop of leaders that have been, the crop of leaders that has been selected, are they the ones that you feel can break the 8?
Well, look, you need the instruments, but you need a good handyman to work with the instrument. It goes hand in hand. Without the right instruments, the handyman is handicapped. And without a good handyman, the instruments can't do much. So it's really, we now have the good handyman who needs the instruments to be able to do the work. So now that we have the good handyman in place, it's a matter of which instruments do we give them to be able to break the 8. Breaking the 8 is not just a mantra, which everybody seems to want to use as a slogan. It needs a lot of work, and it's going to be very difficult. But we know that at least, and I've said on your show over and over, that every party has 45%. MPP has its 45% before we said go, and then NDC has their 45% before we said go. Now, what is evident from this Saturday's Congress, on Sunday when everybody was leaving, one of the things that they keep saying is that now the party will work again. So at least for now, the 45% that the MPP has is together, is revibrated. Everybody is enthused with the new chairman, with the new general secretary, and everybody is willing and has a lot of energy to go forward to break the 8. What is next is the tools and the equipment to be able to go out there and get the 5+1, the 5% plus 1 to basically break the 8.
Righto. And on the back of this, of course, there's also what we can expect next is the selection of a flag bearer. Some have spoken about the Alan Kyerematen camp. This is the final bit before we get into the papers. Some have spoken about the Alan camp and how JFK purportedly leans towards Alan and Stephen Ayesu's team as well in the past. Do you feel that that puts Alan Kyerematen in some better position compared to the vice president? Though I know you have intentions of contending yourself, but I'm asking an open-ended question, looking at the two.
It's not true. Look, people want to sit in their comfort of their chair and make pronouncements that makes people feel like, oh, they are not doing much, but they are in the lead. Look, when I saw those headings, I laughed because none of the people that won are in Alan's camp. There's no such thing as people that won are in Alan's camp. If that's what his supporters or people who purportedly support his candidature is telling him, then it's unfortunate. Because Mr. Stephen Ayesu is not an Allen person. Justin Kodia is not an Allen person. Let's not...
Do you know this for a fact? Do you know this for a fact? Do you know this for a fact? Stephen Ayesu's team has been contesting on 4 occasions. This is the 5th time. And some say within the party that, yes, he leans towards Alan Kyerematen.
He's the father of all. He is the father of all. Yesterday was his birthday. I want to use this platform to wish him a happy birthday again. I was in his house to wish him happy birthday. A lot of people were in his house to wish him happy birthday. He's a father of all. He is not leaning towards anybody. You know, and Justin Kodia, I've worked with Justin since he was the youth organizer in Ashanti. Okay? And Justin is not an Allen person. Let's stop this thing that we keep branding people.
So he's not an Allen person. Is he a Baumia person then?
He's a nobody's person. That's simple as that. He's his own. Listen, everybody, look. I don't know if you've seen these statistics going around. In the presidential primaries, the grassroots, which is the polling station executives, make up 209. Okay, it's about 180 something thousand. The total electoral college for the presidential primaries is about 209,000. 209,000. The polling station executives, which are the constituency the polling station chairman, polling station organizer, polling station secretary, they make up over 180,000. They are the ones that you need on your camp. Not, I'm sure you saw the video of when Chairman Wontumi came in with 15 chairmen said that they are backing John Boadu with their region. And I said that it's not true. They can only have 15 people standing there and they only have 15 votes. And clearly that's what happens. They only have 15 votes. Nobody can support you or be in your camp and you think you won. That politics is over. Now you need to go to the grassroots and talk to the young guys and tell them your vision for Ghana. That's the important thing. And that's what Kojo Poku is doing. So look, let's stop this thing about somebody's in somebody's camp. It's not going to help you.
Let's get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. State loses 27 billion Ghana cedis to tax exemptions. Finance Minister confirms in Parliament. National Service holds first visitation day. Weak Parliament, woes of country. Speaker insists on strengthening oversight responsibility. That's a very interesting story. And on the back page, collaboration key to curbing accidents, Road Safety Authority. Let me also take, so 2 major stories. The one about the state losing taxes and a weak parliament being the bane of our country. Let's start with Parliament. Now,
both hand in hand, Ben. Look,
I just wanted to delve into the stories a bit to give some background to it before you react, if you like.
Okay.
Right. So in the first story, most of the challenges facing the country are the result of a weak parliament. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagmin, has said. He said much of the waste, mismanagement and corruption that had led to economic downturns in the country could have been averted if Parliament had been strengthened to play its oversight responsibility effectively. Mr. Bagmin said this when the editor, graphic Kobi Asma, paid a courtesy call on him at his office in Parliament House in Accra last Friday. The visit, of course, was to deepen the relationship between the Graphic Communications Group and Parliament. But the Speaker said his first year in office had focused on strengthening Parliament, while in the second year, the emphasis had been on solidifying its oversight function. That, he said, was to strengthen Parliament to enable it to hold the executive arm of government and state institutions accountable to the people for the power to be used prudently. The other story, page 13, I just want to put them together, Kojo, so we look at them. State loses 27 billion Ghana cedis to tax exemptions, Finance Minister confirms in Parliament. So what are the details? The Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, has confirmed that the country lost about 27 billion to tax exemptions granted some businesses between 2008 and 2020. I'm talking cedis. The amount translates to about 2.2 billion Ghana cedis surrendered in tax waivers each year for the 12-year period. Addressing Parliament last Friday, the Finance Minister also said since 2008, it was only in 2020 that the lost revenue declined to about 1.8 billion Ghana cedis. Now, on the back of that, the minister gave the confirmation after a Deputy Minister of Finance, Abnose Asari, had moved a motion for the second reading of the Tax Exemptions Bill 2020. So this is a matter that has been in and out of the discussion basket, and a lot of people have said that we give too many exemptions. I know the Bretton Woods institutions, even the World Bank, at a point, has had to talk about the number of exemptions we give. Over to you, Kojo. What is your take on this, as the Speaker has revealed the gargantuan sums we are losing and the weakness of our Parliament, per the Speaker?
Well, Ben, both goes hand in hand. A weak Parliament oversees a weak process. Now, my question is, who caused the weak Parliament? Is the weak Parliament as a result of them not having the right tools and the right environment or the right infrastructure to do their work? Look, some time back, everybody was moaning that Parliament was weak because they didn't have offices, they didn't have the environment where they work. Some of them were saying they work out of their car. And then we completed Job 600. What happened? Now, every parliamentarian has a beautiful office. I've been there. The offices has computers, have space for assistants. Go in there one day with your cameras and see if there is anybody in that building when they are not in the house. You know, normally there's a time when they come in the morning, they go into their offices and the bell is rung for all of them to go into the chamber. Or when they go on break, they are supposed to go into their offices and basically do. They don't use their offices. Most parliamentarians don't use their office. And even research assistants, I think as part of their salaries, they are paid, or there is an allowance from Parliament budgetary for research assistants. Some of us who are civil society has also offered our services to parliamentarians that, look, you can engage us for free. I know most civil society organizations have told parliamentarians that you can engage our services for free. When it comes to when bills are laid in Parliament, you want to do research, you want further information, but nobody uses these things because at most 98% of the time, they are being whipped to approve something in less than 48 hours. And how are you going to do any proper in-depth research? I'll give you a typical example. When you take the document, the committee report that goes to the floor of the House, if you take the memo that comes from the executive, so the executive does a memo, and that memo is laid on the floor of the House, and it is now given to the committee to go and do their sitting. The committee sits, and then the committee is supposed to present their report to the floor of the House for approval. Ben, I bet you, go and take 3 of these sets of committee report and memos. They are cut and paste. Every time you see a committee report, is a cutting of the memo that is cut and paste as a report, which is not supposed to be. What the committee report is supposed to be the deliberation of the committee. What went on, what was said, what were the disagreements, what was what. The detailed report of the committee sitting is what's supposed to go to the floor of the House. All the committee reports I have seen in the energy sector, most of them are a cut and paste of the memo that was presented to them into the committee report. It tells you that the committee did not deliberate anything. Okay? So for me, when
which also means that our members of parliament are doing us a great disservice, because that is exactly, in fact, that is the core function, one of the core functions of why they are in parliament, looking through all of these documentations. And like you point, if there's this sloppiness with memos, then you can imagine what could be happening in other aspects of their work.
No, Ben, I have been to one of these hearings, and the first time I attended one of these was the PDS. You know, we took so much interest in PDS that we petitioned, myself, Kwam Jantwa, and ASEP, Ben Boachi, petitioned the chairman of the Energy Committee. We went to the Job 600 to meet with the gentleman at that time. Then I actually took time, the day of the hearing, attended the hearing. There were 3 agreements that were to be passed. They took less than 1 hour, 30 minutes to go through 3 agreements. And at that time, Dr. Sibeyeboa said that, oh, we've done exhaustive, we spent a lot of time. And I'm saying that thinking, really? You just breeze through these agreements without even acknowledging that civil society have petitioned the committees, and nobody mentioned the civil society petitions at the committee. Then you now go through, and again with PDS, the committee report was a cut and paste of the memo from the executive to the floor. And we also saw what happened with PDS, because we have said that without an exhaustive deliberation on the agreements, PDS will not last 6 months. And PDS exactly did not last 6 months. So it is their own doing. They should take a lot more time to engage research assistants. Like I said, they could get some for free from civil society, or use the allowances in parliamentary budgets to basically engage people to do in-depth work for them. Now, in terms of the 25 billion tax exemptions, now who caused them? They are the ones approving these tax exemptions. And the parliament...
But you're a businessman. You're a businessman. You know how this feeds into the entirety of the conversation. When we talk about the free zones authority and all of that, you know how this feeds into the conversation. But are we getting value from all of these? Go on the Dawenya Pram stretch. You see a lot of entities benefiting from these in different parts of the country. But are we getting the boons, the benefits eventually from these entities? I guess that's what we ought to be looking at, not necessarily the bit about giving tax waivers. We know about instances where in the past we've been told, oh, someone close to some president or some person or someone walking the corridors of power has his or her company being given tax waivers, and questioned them. But beyond that, for any genuine ones out there, I mean, what can we do better to get greater benefits as a country?
Okay, so I think the problem is not necessarily companies in the free zone getting tax waivers. I don't think that is what this 25 billion exemption is. Mostly when you have bilateral agreements for construction of certain projects. Most projects, when the companies are coming in, they give them tax waivers for the importations. So I'll give you an example. The Kualugu Dam, the Chinese are building. You realize that most of the imports that the Chinese are bringing in will all have tax waivers. If a construction company or companies have been given contract to build certain things in Ghana, they are giving tax exemptions. Some companies also apply because of, there are even 1 or 2 local companies that, because of the nature of their work, are giving tax exemptions. The most important thing is that, look, the thinking that I see is that if you are to tax the product being used for your own work, then it's more like biting your tongue for meat, because you are actually increasing the bill to yourself. That is why in some instances the government will give a tax waiver so that the expense of the contract is not burdened by taxes, which is for the government itself, because then you really be chasing your own tail. In that instance, I understand. But there are clear instances of abuse where in some cases we are not supposed to give tax waivers. And that is where Parliament is supposed to investigate, research, and
okay. Just to add to what you said, part of what was said per the Daily Graphic It will also provide a regulatory regime for monitoring tax exemptions to ensure that exemptions granted are used for the intended purpose, as well as curtail the abuse of the existing exemptions regime. So you see why I was talking about some of what I did. And obviously, we need a tweaking of the regime. But I want us to end in the Daily Graphic with this. Harvest souls, not wealth. Harvest souls, not wealth. And that is the moderator of the Global Evangelical Church, the Right Reverend Samuel Prosper Jomeku, saying, harvest souls, not wealth. He may be speaking to the clergy, but let's put this in a national context. I've heard a lot of people say, look, young people, think about the future of the country, think about your progeny, posterity, and maybe being morally upright. But some of the youth will turn out and tell you, don't you see our leaders? Can't you see what they are doing? And if we want to go into politics, look, we all meet them. I'm sure you have. They'll tell you bluntly that, look, I want to go into politics because, me too, the national cake, I want chop some. All of these are there. And we see all the weird happenings in our country, especially on the back of the economic downturn. How does this resonate with you? Harvest souls, or be, in essence, let's look out for morality rather than seeking money.
Exactly. So that's exactly the word I was going to use, the moral issue, the moral conversation. That deep-seated conviction of moral issue. When you have good morality or you have good morals, then you do not go into the greed and all the things that are the underlying factors of corruption. So when the good gentleman says that harvest souls, what he's trying to say is that, look, let's be our brother's keeper, which is the number one golden rule that we've all heard. Now, the wealth. If you can have all the money in the world, most people, yes, I believe in money because I think that's why we all get up in the morning to go to work. But what is it worth that if you now gain all the world and then basically lose your soul? So everybody comes in naked and goes out naked. So what the gentleman is trying to say is that let's not dwell on the wealth of this earth. Okay, let's look at the soul of a human being. And the soul of the human being is the inner being of that person. And I've said on your show several times that what really comes out when people become politicians or get power is their inner being, which is their soul. So without good morals from beginning, the person will end up showing their true self. And because they don't have good morals, that's what we see all this greed and the corruption, where in the past, somebody just having 1 car, 2 car, 3 car in their drive was enough. Now people want to be able to demonstrate that they can buy 10
and
cars.
And it's because we are learning from the best. It's because we are learning from our leaders. We're learning from our leaders, aren't we? Our leaders are a reflection of us, and we are a reflection of our leaders.
Exactly. We keep forgetting that we keep thinking that our leaders came from space to be leaders. No, our leaders were members of society who are a reflection of us, as you just said. So it is the whole entirety. It's not just leaders. Leaders are part of us. They are just in the front to lead us. But if we change the way we are, it will also reflect on them. If you are buying 30 cars and everybody is disgusted, you stop buying 30 cars.
Right.
But we seem to appreciate these things. We are beginning to become a country of mediocrity. Let me give you a quick example of what happened to me yesterday. It's become that in the media space, especially the online bloggers now, they try to put derogatory headlines to videos. That's why people will watch. If you put a video as a blogger on YouTube or online, and you put very good descriptive analysis of the intellectual discussion, nobody watches it. Now, yesterday, I saw that there was one of these online TVs that came to my office and do an interview. A very beautiful interview that did not mention Canada, Japan. Okay. Now, when these bloggers put the video on their site, guess the heading that they put as the video? Kojo Poku will beat Canada, Japan like a child. Canada, Japan was not even mentioned in the interview. So the only reason they will put Kojo Poku will beat Canada, Japan like a child is because that is what they think everybody wants to read.
Right. So sensationalism. Right.
So it's really disturbing the trajectory that we are on as a nation. So look, I agree with the gentleman 100%. We are losing our soul as human beings, and we are just going on that trajectory of just abnormality and stupidity, unfortunately.
Let's get into the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Veep launches e-pharmacy platform that has been in the works for a while for public to access pharmaceutical services using mobile phones and computers, another one in the digitalization drive. There's also woman's death in ambulance probe. You've been following that story. Spinal anesthesia procedure complication caused death. That's according to Professor Zakaria of the Ghana Ambulance Service. But there's also on page 7, 35 perished, 207 injured in 4,065 fire outbreaks in last 6 months. And here's why it's even more important to look at this story. A total of 35 persons perished and 207 others suffered injury in 4,065 fire outbreaks across the country within 6 months of this year, as against 3,307 outbreaks recorded the previous year within the same period. This represents an increase of 22.9%, over 1/5. The cost of damage was pegged at 30,197,948 cedis and 20 pesos. Quick reflections. Kojo.
Well, it's very dire. You know, I'm a man of many hats, and I've been the co-owner and on a board of an insurance company for some time, since probably 2009. One of the things that came up recently is that, you know, the NIC came up and said that fire policy should be extended to all commercial buildings and stuff like that. So insurance companies are busy trying to insure buildings. The downside of that is that with all these fires and bad electrical works in most of these buildings, there is a lot of fire going around. And I can assure you that most of the fire within our buildings is mostly to do with electrical problems. The low fluctuation and high current and low current, in some instances, sparks, and with the bad cables being imported and used, some of the things that happen is that it results in fire. Now, with the e-pharmacy, look, we are doing a lot of these online stuff. It's a good thing. Digitization is a good thing. But for me, I just think that the builders, the developers of these platforms are not building robust systems. I'll give you a typical example, the Registrar General Department. Every week, 3 times out of the week, their system is down because the software they have doesn't work well. The developers do not build robust systems. Today, we are talking about the Ghana card, which has getting a lot of slack recently because of doctors' comments. The Ghana card is not even integrated with a lot of things. And the simple thing they are supposed to do is to basically have an API that basically helps with the integration. But most platforms that we have in Ghana are built with a lot of bugs. And it doesn't work. It's down most times. So it's good to have e-pharmacy, but how robust will be the e-pharmacy platform? Okay, that is the problem that I have. And also, with everything now going on online, what is our firewall? What is the security? What is the encryption of some of these data that we keep collecting from people and putting online? Those are the questions that we are supposed to be asking, because it's good to have everybody's data and everybody's information online. With the strength of the encryption that we are deploying in this country, I don't know the type of encryption, but it will take a hacker maybe 10 seconds to break into our system if they are even able to break into.
So we have very porous systems that we really ought to be looking at. And speaking of hackers, that also brings me to that other all-important situation. I'll be wrapping with the Ghanaian Times shortly, but this brought to mind the situation with terrorists, because now there's also terrorism on the hacking level that can be done to cripple your economy, economic terrorism. We also know currently, and Kojo, we have just about maybe some 6-7 minutes to play with, so quite a number of issues. Let's digest them as quickly as we can. 200 Ghanaian fighters, as we know it, it's a major issue we're looking at this morning, are already among various jihadist outfits in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Guess what? Terrorist groups have infiltrated Ghana, according to the latest reports, and a Ghanaian fighter from Karaga was utilized in the recent onslaught against French military personnel in Mali. And apparently there's an active recruitment ongoing in our mining areas. You know, these terrorists usually target countries based on wealth, and they also target, like in Nigeria, oil-rich areas, mining areas, and all of that. As you spoke about the other matter, let's link it to this one. What is your reflection on that?
Well, is disturbing, and is very disturbing to the point that in some instances we also have ethnicity playing a role. I happened to over the weekend sit with a friend of mine from Boko, Upper East area, and no, we don't talk much about the Boko situation. We tend to want to sweep it to the back end, but apparently the situation in Boko has not gone down. It's a really situation that the national security and the president needs to address, because it is a century-long problem between the Kusasis and the Mamprosis. And I think that because they are no longer using guns, everybody thinks that the gun violence is going down, but the killing has not stopped. Okay, so in our own backyard, we have a dire situation in Boko that everybody seems that we are not paying attention to because it's not in the news. Everybody thinks that it's gone away. It's not. And because of these youth, like you said, mining areas, go to Takwa Pristia area and see the restlessness of the youth there. Nothing is going on for the youth. Okay, so it will be easier for people to come and entice them with money and all the above to join some of these things. And when they train them, these guys can easily come back and integrate in our society, which is the seriousness of it. We've always said that we can easily look out for the foreigner. But in most cases, if they want to now strike, they wouldn't use foreigners. They will look at homegrown terrorists and use them to basically do what they need to do.
Right.
So we need to be on guard. We need to basically report any suspicious activity of our friend, neighbor, or somebody that recently go away and come back and start talking funny.
If you see something, say something. That's the catchphrase. Warning of heat apocalypse in parts of France. And it's getting interesting because there's a heat apocalypse facing Western France. Experts have warned as extreme temperatures continue to hit much of Europe. Temperatures could reach record levels in 15 regions. And we all know it's not just France that is affected. Greece is affected. We also have Spain being affected as well. In France, about 14,000 hectares of land have been compromised because of wildfires and all of that. But quick reaction to a number of stories. So the Ghanaian Times, page 17, Swami residents protest against bad roads. And the timely arrival of the police prevented what could have been a nasty situation after a mob at the Swami Mezzine attempted to attack the member of parliament for the area on Monday. While they were hooting at him, throwing sachets of pure water at him. And it all had to do with the construction of a stretch of road. And there are more major constructions coming up, which hadn't been asphalted. The contractor supposedly had gone to the Ivory Coast. I found that interesting, to get bitumen, per the explanation of Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu and all of that. And the people were fed up because guess what, Kojo? These are people selling spare parts. You know what dust does to spare parts and their health as well. Tie that into what the Daily Guide newspaper says. So I stabbed JB, that is JB Dankwa, Sexy Don Don says so. That is in the Daily Guide newspaper, that long-standing matter. Two of them, we'll wrap with another 2 points and we're done. But let's do these two for now.
Well, look, the road situation in the Swami area going all the way to Medema in the Kwabri East area is crazy. My brother, they don't have, apart from the main road that's asphalted, all the link road, none is asphalted.
Right.
Look, in Mamfontein, in the Kwabri area today, since the existence of Mamfontein, none of the Mamfontein town roads are done. Before the election in 2020, a contractor was brought to site. He was spent 3-4 weeks on the site and left. Started building gutters, left the half-done gutters, and people were now tripping in these gutters and injuring themselves. Okay, this is a road contract that has been awarded. It's very strange that you mentioned that somebody will go to Kumasi and tell people of Kumasi that somebody has to go to Ivory Coast to get bitumen. Were we not in this country when Guel's so-called factory in Tema launched that does bitumen? I mean, Ben, I'm sure you heard the story that Guel has recently commissioned a bitumen plant in Tema. What happened to that plant? Now that somebody has to go to Ivory Coast to get bitumen. You see, I keep saying that, look, let's stop running the country with propaganda. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. Ghanaians will start losing faith. And they've started losing faith in this political system. And that's why some of us want to come back and restore that faith in politics.
All right.
Because it's laughable.
Let's wrap on this point, Kojo, in just some 30 seconds. The final newspaper, Access Bank appoints Amabewa as first female board chair. At least that's another win for women, and I'm happy about that. Mahama underscores need for every Ghanaian to have Ghana card, while they've also been talking about the fact that if we're going to use that to compile another register, we should be sure not to disenfranchise anyone. The Daily Statesman finally says, more OMCs cut fuel prices. I want your reflection in some 20 seconds, Kojo, and we'll go.
Well, congratulations to my sister Amabewa, and it's a good win for women, as she said.
Right.
Women empowerment is a thing that we are all fighting to make sure that we get our sisters in a lot of places. Fuel prices, most definitely, is on a downward, is on a descent, which is a good thing. And I think we should talk more about it in the coming. If the city is strengthened, I even keep saying that, look, if we're able to get some inflows of forex and the city goes down to about 740. We will be able to see a major reduction in the price of fuel to come down further because the international prices have receded.
Right.
The Ghana card is a good thing. Everybody should get theirs, and let's use the bio features of that for the election 2024.
Kojo Poku, thank you for joining the conversation.
Have a nice day.
All right. Kojo Poku is an energy analyst and a man who shares his thoughts freely. He joined us for the news review. But up next, we have sports. Do stay.